Hello, this is Mrs. Buchanan. We are now on the last section in Chapter 1, Lesson 1.3, called Patterns of Life. The learning objectives for this section include identify characteristics of all living things, describe cross-cutting concepts of biology, and explain how fields of biology differ in their approaches. Explain the importance of the metric system. Characteristics of living things. There are several things that consider organisms living. Living things share basic characteristic structures. They are all made up of cells. They reproduce. They can either reproduce sexually or asexually, depending on the species, or some species even reproduce both ways depending on the environment. They are based on the Universal Genetic Code. You have probably heard of the Universal Genetic Code. It is called DNA. Characteristics of living things continued. Living things grow and develop. In order to do this, they must have metabolism, is a word that you should know. Living things respond to the environment. And we can see that as we look at this particular picture right here. A lot of times there is a stimulus, and the stimulus in this particular picture is going to be the sunlight, which is causing all the sunflowers to face a certain direction. All living things maintain an internal balance. There is a name for that. It is called homeostasis. Homeostasis is a stable internal condition of living organisms. Most organisms have to maintain this stability in order to maintain life. Organisms also change over time. There is a word that we use for this, and I'm not just talking about a couple of days. We're talking about lots of time. And this word is called evolution. Cross-cutting concepts in biology. There are several cross-cutting concepts in biology. Cause and effect, mechanism and explanation. Successful scientific research reveals rules and patterns that can explain and predict at least some events in nature. Another cross-cutting concept is systems and system models. All the different parts of a system work together and interact with one another. Stability and change. And I already mentioned a word previously that describes stability, especially an internal stability, and that would be homeostasis. Without homeostasis, many organisms may have serious or even fatal consequences. Patterns. There are two main types of patterns. Linear patterns include the tendency for organ systems to become more complex. So going from simple to more complex. We can see this in organisms as we look at the simplest animal, the sponge, all the way up to the most complex animal, the human. Cyclical patterns. think of the word cycle. These patterns include seasonal migrations or movement of materials through the environment. So, the carbon cycle. Scale, proportion, and quantity. Just about everything can be described in terms of structure. We can look at things from a molecular scale, which is going to be very small, to a global scale. Energy and matter. Flows, cycles, and conservation. Living things obtain and use material and energy. Life requires matter that serves as nutrients to build body structures and energy that fuels life's processes. The need for matter and energy link all living things on Earth in a web of interdependent relationships. Maybe you guys have studied about a food web before. This would be an example. Structure and function. Structures have evolved in ways to make particular functions possible. The best example I can think of is your hand. Your hand is made structurally a certain way so that it can function by grasping and picking up objects. Next is fields of biology. Biology includes many overlapping fields that use different tools to study life from the molecular level to the planetary level. We can look at global ecology, and in global ecology, we can try to understand weather patterns and processes in the atmosphere. We can do this by using satellite technology and supercomputers. Biotechnology. This field was created by the molecular revolution and is based on our ability to edit and rewrite the genetic code. Hopefully, we can correct or replace damaged genes. We may also genetically engineer bacteria to clean up toxic waste. However, this field also raises an enormous ethical, legal, and social questions. Ecology of infectious diseases. When we study these, we study the relationships between hosts and pathogens and how they are constantly changing. Organisms that cause human disease have their own ecology, which involves our bodies, medicines we take, and our interactions with each other and the environment. There is what we call an evolutionary arms race between disease-causing organisms and humans. This is going to create a constant challenge for public health. And last is molecular biology. This field focuses on the study of DNA and other molecules inside cells. The molecular revolution occurred in the 1980s and created a field of genomics. Now we can look at an entire set of DNA for an organism. We can search for keys about growth, development, aging, disease, and even cancer. One more thing I would like to mention is the building the tree of life. Biologists have discovered and identified roughly 1.8 million different kinds of living organisms. They think that between 2 and 100 million more forms of life are waiting to be discovered around the globe. They might be found in caves deep beneath the surface, tropical rainforest, coral reefs, or even the depths of the sea. Scientists want to combine the latest genetic information with computer technology to organize all living things in a single, universal, quote, tree of life, end quote. Scientific measurement. Now, when scientists perform investigations, they have to use measurement. And scientists use the metric system when collecting data and performing experiments. They use the metric system because it is universal and known around the world. Therefore, scientists can compare experiments and data very easily if they all use the same unit of measurement. On this particular slide, you can look at the major units that we use in experiments. Length, which is measuring distance. Mass, which is measuring matter. Temperature measures how hot or cold something is. And volume is going to measure usually liquids. So how much matter of a liquid. At the very bottom of this slide, I have put some examples up here to see if we can kind of figure out the conversions within the metric system. Now, the metric system is based on a scale of multiples of 10. So you should either have to divide or multiply by units of 10 to get to a smaller or larger unit within that particular measurement. On this one, 0.45 liters is how many milliliters? Well, if we look at volume, we can see that 1 liter equals 1,000 milliliters. What would I have to do to this number to get the correct answer here? All I have to do is multiply by 1,000. Or I can move my decimal point 3 places to the right. 1, 2, 3. I'll have a placeholder, which is going to be 450 milliliters. Let's look at the next one. 1 kilometer is how many meters? Well, let's go up here and look. There are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. So this is pretty easy. What would I have to do to kilometer? I can multiply it by 1,000. 1 times 1,000 is going to get me 1,000. Let's look at milligrams to grams. If we go up here, 1 gram equals 1,000 milligrams. Now, if I'm going from milligrams to grams, okay, am I going to multiply by 1,000 or divide by 1,000? You are correct. I would divide by 1,000, which would give me 5 grams. Look at your answer and make sure it makes sense. Milligrams are smaller than grams, okay, because there's only 1 gram in 1,000 milligrams. So it wouldn't make sense if we come up with 50,000 or 500,000 grams. That wouldn't make sense. Let's look at the next one. 0.017 grams to milligrams. Now we're going the opposite way, from grams to milligrams. So in this particular instance, we are going to multiply by 1,000, or we can move the decimal point 3 places to the right, and that would give us an answer of 17 milligrams. Meters to kilometers. Is this number going to be smaller or larger than this number? I hope you said smaller. Okay, on this particular instance, we are going to divide by 1,000. So the answer is going to be 0.13 kilometers, or we can move the decimal point. We'll assume that it's right here at the end of the number. We would move it 3 places to the left. Last one, 2,500 milliliters to liters. We're going from a smaller unit of measurement to a larger unit of measurement. So we are going to divide. Anytime we're going from smaller to larger, we divide. And on this particular case, we would divide by 1,000. Our answer is 2.5 liters. Thank you for watching today's lesson. I will have more posted on Google Classroom. Have a great day.